In what we read last week, Aurobindo was expressing the way that Asvapati experienced a world of oneness. And it gets summed up at the end, at the top of page 324. It says, none was apart. None was separate. None lived for himself alone. Each lived for God in him and God in all. Each soulness inexpressibly held the whole. There are masons on the roof. Do we have to tell them? So there's individuality and the sense of oneness between all the individualities at the same time. So I'm going to read on from there. Their oneness was not tied to monotone. It showed 1,000 aspects of itself. Its calm, immutable stability upbore on a changeless ground forever safe, compelled to a spontaneous servitude, the ever-changing, incalculable steps, the seeming reckless dances, subtle plan of immense world forces in their perfect play. Appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness smiling play. It made all persons fractions of the unique, yet all were beings secret integers. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love in the harmonized circle of a sure embrace. Identity's reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. On a meeting line of hazardous extremes, the game of games was played to its breaking point, where through self-finding, by divine self-loss, there leaps out unity's supreme delight, whose blissful, undivided sweetness feels a communality of the Absolute. There was no sob of suffering anywhere. Experience ran from point to point of joy. Bliss was the pure, undying truth of things. All nature was a conscious front of God. A wisdom worked in all, self-moved, self-sure, a plenitude of illimitable light, an authenticity of intuitive truth, a glory and passion of creative force. Infallible, leaping from eternity, the moment's thought inspired the passing act. A word, a laughter sprang from silence breast, a rhythm of beauty in the calm of space, a knowledge in the fathomless heart of time. All turned to all, without reserve's recoil. A single ecstasy without a break. Love was a close and thrilled identity in the throbbing heart of all that luminous life. A universal vision that unites, a sympathy of nerve replying to nerve, hearing that listens to thought's inner sound and follows the rhythmic meanings of the heart. A touch that needs not hands to feel, to clasp. Were there the native means of consciousness and heightened the intimacy of soul with soul. A grand orchestra of spiritual powers, a diapason of soul interchange, harmonized, a oneness deep, immeasurable. In these new worlds projected, he became a portion of the universal gaze, a station of the all-inhabiting light, a ripple on a single sea of peace. His mind answered to countless communing minds. His words were syllables of the cosmos speech. His life, a field of the vast cosmic stir. He felt the footsteps of a million wills moving in unison to a single goal. A stream ever newborn that never dies, caught in its thousandfold currents, ravishing flow, with eddies of immortal sweetness thrilled. He bore, coiling through his members as they passed, calm movements of interminable delight, the bliss of a myriad myriads who are one. So I think we're starting on this side. Line 251.
Was not tied to monotone. It showed a thousand aspects of itself. Its calm, immutable stability, upborne on a changeless ground forever safe.
Compelled
to a spontaneous servitude. The ever-changing and calculable steps, the seeming reckless dances, subtle play of immense world forces in their perfect play.
So there's two separate complementary things in this sentence. When we think of oneness, we tend to think of sameness. You know, that there's no variety. Oneness is all just featureless oneness. But he says there, in that world or that state which Asvapati is experiencing now, oneness was not tied to monotone. There was not just one note or one color or one state. It's full of variety. It shows 1,000 aspects of itself. That one contains infinite possibilities. No? It's the calm, immutable stability of the one, which is unmoving, immovable, unchangeable. That stability supports, as if on a base, on a stage or a ground which doesn't change, which is absolutely safe and secure and reliable, which will never change. It supports a dance. A dance of many, many steps, ever-changing, incalculable steps. You don't know what kind of a step or a movement is going to come next. But these steps, they seem to be reckless, as if they are careless, and that there's no thought goes into them. Seeming reckless. But in fact, there's a subtle plan. There's a wonderful choreography. These steps are actually compelled. They have to be exactly the way that they are. They are spontaneous, but they are compelled. This is going to be one of the difficulties in this passage, and in fact in this whole part of the canto, that it's full of apparent contradictions. No? When something is compelled, we say, well, it can't be spontaneous. No? But when it's compelled by its own inner nature, then that's the greatest spontaneity that we can have. No? That we're not compelled by anything outer. So these ever-changing, incalculable steps. These are the steps of immense world forces. It's a dance, but it's a dance of huge world forces playing, dancing, and their play is perfect. It follows this subtle plan, and each of those world forces is following its own inner law or inner nature, inner being. And it's all supported by that oneness. So within the oneness, there's an immense variety and spontaneity. Dhanalakshmi.
Appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness, smiling play. It made all persons fractions of the unique, yet all were beings secret integers.
Integers, I think. Yeah. So each of these individual souls or beings has its own special appearance, identifiable characteristics. But these appearances are looking back to, they are reflecting the hidden truth of that particular individual aspect of the one. So this difference and this variety of the appearance is just a smiling play of oneness. There's a little apostrophe here which shows that it is the smiling play of oneness. So that smiling play of oneness made all these persons, all these individuals, they are fractions, they are parts of that unique, that soul one, and yet at the same time all these fractions are integers. There's a distinction between a fraction and an integer. Now, a fraction is a part of something, and an integer is a whole number. So each of these beings is whole in themselves, but each of them is a fraction, a portion, an aspect of that one, secretly.
All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love in a harmonized circle of a sure embrace. Identities reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference.
Yes. So there is difference, and there's play, and what would be struggle here, there is turned into a kind of love play, a sweet strife of love. Sometimes when people are in love, they play at wrestling and competing, no? So it is something like that. They can do that because they are absolutely sure of their love, of their oneness. No? So in the harmonized circle of a sure embrace, that oneness, that love is something that they can absolutely rely on. So they can play at disagreeing and competing and being different. The fact that they know that they are one, they experience that reconciling happiness, harmonizing happiness of being one, gave a rich security to difference. There's a feeling of safeness about being different. I remember somebody here in AUROVILLE pointing out to me that if we really felt human unity, we could also quarrel with each other, and without it being a disaster, without it being destructive or unpleasant in any way. Because identity would give a rich security even to difference. There's no threat or danger in being different. Maria.
Of hazardous extremes, the game was played to its breaking point, where through self-finding, by divine self-love, there leaps out unity's supreme delight, whose blissful, undivided sweetness feels a communality of the absolute.
So what a subtle sentence. How are we going to grasp this sentence? There's a line, a borderline, where extremes meet. A meeting line of hazardous extremes. Extremes, it seems as if it's quite dangerous for these extremes to come together. But this is a game. This is the game of all games. And it gets played really to the ultimate point, the breaking point. And he says the breaking point comes when each of those extremes, or those many extremes, find themselves by losing themselves. Losing themselves to the divine, losing themselves in the divine. And at that moment of the loss of separateness, by coming together in the divine, then there leaps out the supreme delight of oneness. There's a blissful, undivided sweetness, and at the same time the feeling, the experience of all the other onenesses, no? All joined in this communality, this connectedness within the Absolute. Aurobindo has in several places tried again and again to help us grasp this experience of multiplicity in oneness and the intense delight. He says that's the most intense delight that there can be, when we feel the oneness and we feel all the many, many different expressions of the oneness, and we feel our own individual relationship at the same time as getting an experience of all the other relationships. Communality of the Absolute. He says this is the goal, the aim of our evolutionary game that we are playing, this game of games. So there on that highest level, it gets played out to its ultimate, to its breaking point. Unity's supreme delight, where there's not only oneness, but also manyness. Yuli?
There was no sort of suffering anywhere. Experience ran from point to point of joy. Bliss was the pure, undying truth of things.
Yes. So this is the absolutely blissful state. No sort of suffering anywhere in that realm, in that state. There's many, many different experiences, but each of them is a point of joy, a different kind of delight. And bliss, Ananda, is the pure, undying truth of things. This was really experienced. Alex?
All nature was a conscious front of God. A wisdom worked in all, self-moved, self-sure, a plenitude of illimitable light, an authenticity of intuitive truth, a glory and passion of creative force.
Yes. So here in our world, we may feel a distinction between nature and God. And in fact, they do play different roles. But on that level, all nature is a front, a projection, an expression of God, a conscious expression of God. And this conscious front has these different aspects. It has the aspect of wisdom, an innate wisdom, which is working in all the expressions of nature. It's moved from within itself. It's sure of itself. It's a fullness of illimitable light. It's also an authenticity of intuitive truth. Truth is what is really authentic, what is really true. And that truth which comes without having to be looked for, which is intuitive, it comes directly. And there's the aspect of force, glory and passion of creative force. Of course, nature is the creative force. Here it is pure, full of wisdom, full of light, full of truth. Joel?
Infallible, leaping from eternity, the moments start, inspired to passing act.
I think you can read the next 3 lines.
A word, a laughter, sprang from silence breast, a rhythm of beauty in the calm of space, a knowledge in the fathomless heart of time.
So as here, thought inspires action, but this thought on that level is infallible. It can't make any mistake. It's leaping from eternity, from beyond time, and it is inspiring the act, the passing act, something that happens in time. There's a creative word, that's a laughter, an expression of delight, is springing from the heart of the silence. It's a rhythm of beauty in the calm of space. A rhythm implies a beat, a heartbeat, a pulse. This is a pulse of beauty in the calm of space, and knowledge in the fathomless heart of time. So it's originating from the silence, and it is expressed there in time, in the heart of time. It comes out as a spontaneous expression, a spontaneous knowledge. Francesca.
All turned to all without reserves recoil. A single ecstasy without a break. Love was a close and fluid identity in the throbbing heart of all that luminous life.
So all the beings there turn to each other without any drawing back, recoil. Sometimes we have a contact and we recoil, we draw back from it. There's this reserve, we don't want to give ourselves fully or to feel fully. We hold something back. There's nothing like that. All these different experiences are a single ecstasy, and there's no break or interruption in it. It's the ecstasy of love, a sense of close oneness. There's, of course, some kind of relationship with love, but it's a relationship of union, of oneness, and that brings a thrill, a delight. So that is pervading all the throbbing heart of all that luminous life. Everybody shares it. There's no break. There's nowhere where it's missing. Prasanna?
A universal vision that unites a sympathy of love replying to love. Hearing then listens to thought's inner sound and follows the rhythmic meanings of the heart. A touch that needs not hands to feel, to clasp, where there the native means of consciousness and heighten the intimacy of soul with soul.
So there is thought. We had this thought, no? Love. Now here there's something like a sense experience, kind of different senses. We have our senses of sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. No? So here he refers to these. The power of vision is a universal vision. It includes and unites everything. Between the beings there's a sympathy of nerve replying to nerve. This contact is delightful and harmonious. Hearing. The hearing is a subtle hearing, a hearing that listens to the inner sound of thought, and it follows the rhythmic meanings of the heart, these heartbeats, these vibrational meanings of the heart. It's also something inner. The ear, the inner ear responds to these rhythms. There's a kind of touch, but it doesn't need any hands. That touch can feel and clasp directly without needing hands. So all these subtle senses, direct contacts, were there, the native means of consciousness, what is natural, born to them, absolutely familiar and spontaneous. And the function of these contacts, these inner senses, were to heighten, to intensify the intimacy of soul with soul. Handel, would you read?
Orchestra of spiritual powers and the person and soul interchange. How much the oneness is immeasurable.
Thank you. So all these fractions of the one integer, all these soulnesses within the whole, they make up a great orchestra of spiritual powers, these powers and potentialities of the one. A diapason of soul interchange. There's anybody here who knows about music and can tell us what a diapason is? That's what it recalls to me. that if you have an organ which plays many, many different tones, you pull out the stop, the diapason, and it plays a very high note. But that's what the tuner does also. No, it has a very high resonance. So, must be connected. So that's harmonizing this orchestra, this oneness. The diapason may be a high resonance, but it's harmonizing all these deep, immeasurable notes of the oneness. Patricia.
In these new worlds projected, he became a portion of the universal gaze, a station of the all-inhabiting light, a ripple on a single sea of peace.
So King Asvapati is projected. He himself enters into those worlds. And how does he fit there? He himself becomes one of those portions of the universal gaze, the gaze of the One. He himself becomes a station, we could say a center perhaps, or a place where that light which inhabits everything, it inhabits different points specially. He becomes one of those points, and he becomes just a ripple on that sea of oneness, that sea of peace. This is his self-experience in that state. Bhavan.
His mind answered to countless communing minds. His words were syllables of the cosmos speech. His life a field of the vast cosmic stir.
You can read the next two lines also.
He felt the footstep of a million words moving in unison to a single goal.
Yes. So his mind, his own mind, is in contact with and resonating in harmony with countless other minds. He's in communion with them. When he speaks, his words are syllables, single syllables of the speech of the cosmos. A syllable is a part of a word. No? So whatever he says is part of that universal speech. His individual life is a field, a part of that vast cosmic stir, that movement of the whole universe. And he can feel, he can experience the way in which all these millions of wills, each of them are individual wills, but they are all moving in unison. It's another term from music, when we all sing the same notes, no? In unison. So they're all moving in unity towards one single goal. There's no disagreement between them. James, would you read?
A stream ever new born that never dies, caught in its thousandfold currents, ravishing flow, with eddies of immortal sweetness thrilled. He bore, coiling through his members as they passed, calm movements of interminable delight, the bliss of myriads who are one.
The structure of this sentence, we have to notice it. First of all, Aurobindo speaks about this stream that's always new, always fresh, and it's never going to die. No? going on and on and on and on. But then he refers to Asvapati. Asvapati is caught in that stream, in that current of the stream that's ever newborn and never dies. It's a thousandfold current. Again, it is not monotonous, it is full of different elements. He's caught in that flow. It's a ravishing flow. It's utterly delightful. Something that is ravishing. It's irresistibly delightful. And he gets thrilled with eddies. In a flow, there will be eddies, little whirlpools, no? So he gets caught in those eddies, those little whirlpools of immortal sweetness. He gets thrilled with that experience. It's such an intense experience. Sri Aurobindo uses the word bore. Something, we use this word of something that is difficult, no? Usually of pain. So he has to, it's something so intense. These movements, they pass through his members, the parts of his being. They coil, they flow through, but they are calm, calm movements of delight. But that delight is interminable. It's not only that it doesn't end, it seems almost to go on too long. When you use the word interminable, it's often in a negative sense. No? The politician made an interminable speech. There was no end to it. But this is interminable delight. Again, this is one of these contradictions that Sri Aurobindo is showing us to buffet our minds. What he's experiencing is the bliss of a myriad myriads who are one. A myriad, it's an uncountable number of beings. And there are an uncountable number of myriads, a myriad myriads. It's beyond all counting. He's experiencing the bliss of all of them in himself. That oneness which is theirs, he too experiences. So shall we read these words together?
Their oneness was not tied to monotone. It showed 1,000 aspects of itself. Its calm, immutable stability upbore on a changeless ground forever safe, compelled to a spontaneous servitude, the ever-changing, incalculable steps, the seeming reckless dances, subtle plan of immense world forces in their perfect play. Appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness smiling play. It made all persons fractions of the unique, yet all were beings secret integers. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love in the harmonized circle of a sure embrace. Identities reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. On a meeting line of hazardous extremes, the game of games was played to its breaking point, where through self-finding by divine self-loss, there leaps out unity's supreme delight, whose blissful, undivided sweetness feels a communality of the Absolute. There was no sob of suffering anywhere. Experience ran from point to point of joy. Bliss was the pure, undying truth of things. All nature was a conscious front of God. A wisdom worked in all, self-moved, self-sure, a plenitude of illimitable light, an authenticity of intuitive truth, a glory and passion of creative force. Infallible, leaping from eternity, the moment's thought inspired the passing act. A word, a laughter sprang from silence breast, a rhythm of beauty in the calm of space, a knowledge in the fathomless heart of time. All turned to all without reserve's recoil. A single ecstasy without a break. Love was a close and thrilled identity in the throbbing heart of all that luminous life. A universal vision that unites, a sympathy of nerve replying to nerve, hearing that listens to thought's inner sound and follows the rhythmic meanings of the heart. A touch that needs not hands to feel, to clasp. Were there the native means of consciousness, and heightened the intimacy of soul with soul. A grand orchestra of spiritual powers, a diapason of soul interchange, harmonized a oneness deep, immeasurable. In these new worlds projected, he became a portion of the universal gaze, a station of the all-inhabiting light, a ripple on a single sea of peace. His mind answered to countless communing minds. His words were syllables of the cosmos speech, his life a field of the vast cosmic stir. He felt the footsteps of a million wills moving in unison to a single goal. A stream ever newborn that never dies, caught in its thousandfold current's ravishing flow, with eddies of immortal sweetness thrilled, he bore, coiling through his members as they passed, calm movements of interminable delight, the bliss of a myriad myriads who are one.